Well, the kids that we grew up with were sneaking the odd can of lager, watching pornography and playing computer games at the age of 15. We're led to believe that Axel Rudicabana, I didn't have to memorise his name, eventually it just stuck. It just stuck in the end. He was making Ricin. I'm going to sit with that for a minute because I don't know the ins and outs of making Ricin, but I understand that Ricin is particularly lethal, and you don't need very much of it to kill somebody. Now, I've watched Breaking Bad, and yeah, okay, Ricin. I've heard of it as being a threat once upon a time during the old War on Terror, as to where there were loads of speculation out there that Ricin was going to be deployed by Al Qaeda. So it's got a long history of being this, deadly substance used to frighten people. And it's like, I'm not thinking for a minute it's a matter of just mixing a couple of chemicals to make Ricin. I think you need to have some specific knowledge of chemical engineering to make Ricin. I'd say that it likely isn't beyond any competent chemist, and I don't fucking mean, right? Somebody who works in the chemist, I mean, an industrial chemist could likely have the equipment and know how to make Ricin if he was so moved to do so. You need that level of skill. So, to my mind, I know two people who'd be capable of doing it. Why? I know a couple of chemical engineers. One a sort of a YouTube mate, and the other one someone I know in real life. They could knock that up for you. The one I know in real life, he can make explosives, no problem. He wouldn't do it for you, hasn't got the equipment anymore, but once upon a time when he used to play, and we're now talking 50 years ago, 45 years ago, 40 years ago, when he used to play with making explosives out of all kinds of things, because he was into chemistry. There's still a few craters around Rochdale that he left with bombs he set off out on the moors. Never blew anyone up, but he made a few loud noises, and he thought that was really funny. And never really got any in trouble for it. Just as some bang heard in the distance, and some small mushroom cloud. But yeah, kids making Ricin at age 14. Now, say I'm no expert, but I can speculate based on common sense, I'd say, that it's not a straightforward operation, and that one would need, maybe not specialist equipment, but one would need the right equipment to do it. And in doing so, how the fuck would you get away with making that in your house without your parents knowing? And then that's another part of it. It's a matter of this boy of wonder. See, the Ricin thing. It's just, to me, we're into boy of wonder now, aren't we? The more that I hear about it, the more it seems like I get echoes of child soldiers from Africa, Central Africa. Kids who get recruited to start to get to killing at the ages 8 and 9, start off as bed warmers, get taught a few lessons in cruelty, and then get bloodied, get them killing from the age of 11, 12. In those kind of militaries, a kid of 17 like Axel Rudy Cabana would be a veteran, wouldn't he? Fighter at the age of 17. The more, right, I read or pick up about this kid, the more it appears that he's someone who's been groomed along those lines from a young age. And I have got this thing about, there's a thing about these Rwanda, right? When push come to shove over what were in essence made up sectarian differences between two parts of the population, where someone once upon a time thought it advantageous to set up a divide and conquer situation in Rwanda, the Belgians, who were pretty keen on their eugenics, dysgenics at the time. They were fucking European thinking. Set them upon each other in a sort of Cold War for many years, the Hutu and the Tutsi. But when asked, when push come to shove, it would be of their own free will that those people picked up fucking machetes and started to chop each other to bits with absolutely no mercy. They did it. It might have been set in motion by, in essence, politicians years and years ago, but the fruits of their labour were quite a large number of people willing to take part in just savage, open bloodletting. Didn't have to be a genocide, you know. It didn't have to be a big massacre. Didn't have to happen. Didn't have to. And those who took part in it, most of them received no payment. They just joined in. So when asked to reach for violence, that sort of a large number of people from Rwanda, they decided to join in. Now, point to this country as to where we may have a slight sort of difference of opinion. You saw the BLM riots in the US. Would you say that there were similarities as to where it was a reaction to a sort of public outrage? So yeah, there's a lot of similarities, but this is much, much worse. What's happened? And the failure is more extreme as well. Right? In the US, BLM set the place on fire. They caused billions of pounds worth of damage. Set all kinds of places on fire, had all kinds of places locked down. It were hard to stop them because there was no people about, because it was during the COVID lockdown. BLM riots, a fucking disaster that the media and establishment called something different and in essence even supported, sympathised with, as they burned the place to the fucking ground, right? You know, it's weird, sort of high level street trouble around the country to one degree or another. We all saw, so the thing is these days with all the people with cameras and live broad, we can all get a bird's eye view of what we see, you know, what we might encounter, and a lot of shows of force and things like that. But I tell you what, them cities and towns did not fucking burn to the ground, did they? No. We didn't. The British people, even when the dickheads are out to play, didn't burn the place to the fucking ground. You might look the odd case of like some fucking idiot tried to set a hostel on fire or something. Yeah, one, okay, right. It's like if this was the sort of place that sort of Rwanda is, the whole fucking place would go up. But it's not, is it? A few stones get thrown, a few words get told, a few chants get made, a few people get a kick. And it'd be bad, and it'd be a disruption, and it'd be, oh, this is an eye-opener. But it'd not be deadly. It'd not be super destructive. They'd not be burning the place to fucking ground. Well, you know, when moved and asked to reach for violence, the people in Rwanda picked up their machetes and went and killed the people in the next village, man. And we've got it worse to where that kid carries his fucking heritage with his brown skin and his crazy name everywhere he's ever gone. And who the fuck were his parents? What? And it's out there as to there's something about that they were in their way connected to the Rwandan genocide, and it might be, might he be one of those people who got swept up in it and found himself guilty of fucking like crimes against humanity? Well, I was just there. I just saw it. One of those sort of guys. Have we brought in someone who's just irreparably broken and traumatised, having witnessed that kind of shit? Have we brought someone in that damaged? Have we brought someone in that broken? And then put him in a fucking council house? Have we done that? And it's like, you bet your ass we have. And then you've stuck them in Cardiff or somewhere. Likely council house benefits. What the fuck have you created? It's say, with the way the government put the lid on the story, because you know what they should have done? And no one else has said this, but you're all dumb as shit, so people, you just, no one's in it, no one's in the game long enough to understand how things get fucking messed up. There's patterns of things you see over a long period of time. If this happened in the 1970s, what would everyone have screamed? IRA. What? Yeah, and if they'd have caught him, and everyone would have screamed IRA, right? They'd locked him up as a terrorist. Lock him up as a terrorist. It's like if you lock the guy up as a murderer, you're actually in some ways you're going down the wrong road to get to the bottom of what's going on. You're actually giving him rights that in this case the sort of crime, basically his crimes are not in the spirit of the law. So he doesn't deserve a free trial. He doesn't deserve a criminal justice outcome. He should have been charged as a terrorist. Straight up. It's like, and they found Ricin in his house, and it's like, definitely you're a fucking terrorist. It's like, when did you get this shit going? You were making Ricin in your bedroom when you were 15? Does your mother know? Fuck. Does your mother know you're making Ricin? Have you not accidentally killed people? Have you done experiments with that Ricin? Do we know it's the real thing? No, I'm saying the kid himself. Has he fucking microdosed anyone with it? It just raises a lot of questions to me. There's shit that I read earlier on in the fucking Guardian where they've got some just... They're doing their best to distance themselves from it and say lessons will be learned. They're doing that thing that they always do. But the initial fuck up of using the criminal justice system on a terrorist is to give the guy rights that he never, human rights, and say, oh, we're so much better than these bad people. He didn't give a shit about those kids when he set about murdering. In a straight line, looking to cause as much horror and terror as possible. It's like his crime is not in the spirit of the law. If that is even a thing, but do you get me? This isn't murder. This is something else. Now, you locked this guy up as a terrorist. And let's put it this way. Your means to interrogate him are enhanced. As to you could break that fucking kid in half a day. And they got him blank to rights too. There's no need for him. There's no actual ridiculous. I mean, he pleaded guilty, so there's no trial, right? Well, that's because it was an open and shut case, wasn't it? And everyone right-headed in the world would have agreed that it's an open and shut case. I mean, he was caught on sight, covered in fucking blood. There's living witnesses, many of them. He's as guilty as it's possible to be guilty. So we can just take that off the table. We know he fucking did it. I'm usually all about treating things as crime and not turning them into politics, right? But in this case, because I was thinking about it for ages, where people are saying that it wasn't a terrorism thing. And I'm like, well, yeah, he's not a member of a terrorist organisation. That's a stretch. Doesn't have to be. Who'd want to be? Fuck, if I was going to do mayhem, I wouldn't do it in the name of anyone but myself. I'd want all the credit. I wouldn't say this is for Extinction Rebellion. Or maybe I should. Maybe I would, actually. Fuck it. Probably not something to chuckle about, but hey, we're still in the world, aren't we? Excuse me. But it's like the whole story is getting more and more. It just looks worse. Say Guardian today, Yvette Cooper, she's mouthing off. Say they're trying to normalise, they're trying to go with the who could have seen this coming? We're going to learn lessons, and we're going to send new lists to people. And it'd be no, reading through the lines of what you've said, it does appear that no one's done anything for this kid because they've been waiting for a referral to happen through the fucking NHS for him to actually speak to a psychologist. When all they've got him down as is autism spectrum disorder, right? They don't know shit. That's a placeholder at best. And it's before doing anything, people wait. They've been waiting on. He's on a waiting list to see a psychologist. That's where he is. People have gone and said, this kid's dangerous. And it turns out he actually has Ricin in his fucking bedroom. Right? And he's been reported 3 times into the police 6 times. And the NHS/prevent state are like, oh well, we've put him on the waiting list to see someone. And the way that the prevent thing be set up is to, we can't take any measure until the psychologists have had a word. And it's like, are you guys trying to tell me that this guy was on an NHS waiting list to see a psychologist? Because you know something, right? You look at the pictures of him, right? And the way he behaves and cracks on, so his behaviour is a bit of a giveaway as to, you're really dealing with a fuck up here. Do you think his behaviour might have been dramatically different before he went and killed people? Before he'd been making Ricin, when the kid who'd been making Ricin in his bedroom, do you think he'd have been any less fucking creepy? I don't. I think he'd be the same fucking person. I think any competent NHS mental health forward-facing, public-facing, psychiatric, either nurse or doctor, specialist nurse or else doctor, would have picked up that he was profoundly fucked up within 5 minutes of laying eyes on him. Look at the state. I think it's as bad as that now. I'm weighing it up. I'm like, yeah, I've known them NHS, psychiatric, right? So they're not all bad. I've known them in the past. Speak to people who've gone to them, basically gone to see them via casualty, who've been in crisis. And I've 45 minute talks with people. And at the end of it, produce paperwork saying this person's probably got borderline personality disorder. Or we need to test along these lines. We need to raise a question. Now, someone working for NHS could pick up something profound, right? Like that. Minutes. Talking to someone, just asking the right questions. Just getting the right reactions from them. Like fucking Blade Runner. Now, it's like, as a matter of just course, NHS could produce paperwork like that do the work in real time, an hour's work. Paperwork 6 weeks lagging behind, obviously. But the person who did the job, the person who sat with that idiot would have been like, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. And the way I'm reading this tale now, it's as if that has never happened. The local authority have decided he's got autism spectrum disorder, right? Well, that's proven to be absolute bullshit, hasn't it? Because if they knew what they were doing, they see they're one part of it. Autism spectrum disorder is not a mental illness. But you can have autism spectrum disorder and a mental illness as well, and then that's a different kettle of fish. Autism is a neurological disorder. You wired up differently. It's not a mental illness. You can be wired up differently and a fucking psychopath. But if you look at, go away and look at how this overgeneralisation is used, and you go onto your AI partner or your pal or search for it, use your AI to search. And if you ask for patterns of behaviour or symptoms and things for autism spectrum disorder, they come back identical to narcissistic personality disorder. They just come back identical. They've just got the same damaged patterns of behaviour, same self-destructive tendencies. And that be wrong too. So it's like they're using that label for everything. Everything they like to pretend is beyond their control, they're applying it to, when it's not right. It's just a placeholder. No one is just autism spectrum disorder when they've turned up on antisocial behaviour radars. That's not all they are. It can't be all they are. So you're saying that, a literal neurological disorder, something that's it's like the circuitry, causes it. No, it doesn't. It's not what autism is. This kid might be on the autism spectrum, but say you throw that everywhere, he might well be on the autism spectrum, but he's probably on the cluster B personality disorder spectrum as well. Dark, as they say, they used to call it the dark triad, which is totally wrong. There's more. There's sadism, sadistic personality disorder, something that's been removed from the paperwork. People not knowing shit, seeming to think it'd be too similar to narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality. It's like you misunderstand the thing that Sam Vaknin calls narcissistic supply. He deliberately obfuscates, because it's like everyone to their own poison. It's a deliberate obfuscation, narcissistic supply, because to some, narcissistic supply is people to abuse. A narcissistic supply is adrenaline and fear. Same patterns of behaviour, everything else applies, everything completely apart from this term narcissistic supply, which is a clever placeholder, because it's like place whatever the drug is in there. And there are many things to get fucking wrecked on. Many. It's like the government side of it with Axel, Ruda, Cubana. They haven't even touched it. It's been put on the desk and they haven't even touched it. And if looking at how fucking messed up it's turned out to be, do you think that there's been those in the world who've been trying everything they possibly could to convince them to do something almost immediately? And it's been like, well, you know, we'll get round to it. Well, we've got him down as being autistic. And it's like, yeah, autistic. It doesn't tell anyone anything. You haven't learned anything about this fucking kid. And then it's like when you eventually got in his house, you found Ricin. So what's his bedroom like? A fucking science lab? Have you had a look in his shed? Has he been making Ricin in the shed? Now, if they'd have banged him as a terrorist straight off the bat, right? They would have had all kinds of special laws and privileges they could have thrown down against him if they send MI5 to come and fucking pick him up. Because the right thing to do with a guy like that would be to get him and to fucking sweat him and even use the enhanced interrogation techniques, because they'll all work on him. They were designed to break him. It's not that difficult to break one of them. It's like only 20 years before, people were getting nabbed by our government for terrorism and being thrown in prison and the key being thrown away. Is there still people in Guantanamo Bay? Dangerous. For one reason or another. Is there still people locked up in there? Is there still terrorists off the books locked up in America's secret prison that we just don't, still there, like we used to talk about it, but now we don't talk about it anymore? Is that still going on? Well, the answer is yes, it's still open. There are still terror suspects in Guantanamo. The guy was a terrorist. It didn't matter that he wasn't. I'm weighing it up now thinking, well, he's not. He's not a member of a prescribed terror group, and to go looking for other people is like, nah, you're trying to shift blame. You're trying to set the knife out of the kid's hand, because that's what we're talking about. But a terrorist, yes. Someone who was setting about to cause as much fucking mayhem and chaos as humanly possible, that is a terrorist by my definition of the word. He should certainly have been banged up as a terrorist. They should have been able to hold him without charge for, how long can they hold a terrorist without charge in this country now? There are a big controversy about it when they changed. It's something ridiculous. It's like 100 days. Should we ask Google? Or, well, it's all AI assisted nowadays, isn't it? So this is an easy one. So, how long can the UK government hold a suspected terrorist without charge? AI's like questions like that because it's specific. Hang on. Terrorism Act 2000 gives police the power to arrest suspects without a warrant. Terrorism Act 2006 extended the pre-charge detention period to 28 days. However, the government did not seek to renew the 28-day limit in 2011. So, Now they can hold them for 14 days without charge. You say it went up, didn't it? And it kept going up and up and up during the old war on terror. But it would have been absolutely right to charge him, to hold him as a terrorist and use the 14 days. Because you could have diffused the situation with a different narrative. Just to say this kid's been arrested as a terrorist. This is a terrorist, because it is a terrorist attack. It's the right lid to put on it. And I don't mean cover it up, I mean the right lid to put on it to stop it from fucking going nuts. You provide all the information you've got and say, when a terrorist is caught, right, there's no question, there's no question this guy's guilt. When a terrorist is caught, usually you've seen pictures of them on the front page and they're identified. Dead or alive. Human rights are in some ways suspended for terrorists. They don't have any. I point back to Guantanamo Bay. I talk back black sites in Syria where British intelligence was doing extradition of terror suspects to Syria, where there's no laws there to stop you from torturing somebody who isn't a Syrian. And all these governments once upon a time playing ball, doing this, where no, this guy's not allowed to have criminal justice. And it's like, there is a reason for it. Say that the crime of terrorism is not in the spirit in which the law was written. It's not. It's murder is one thing, but what Axel did, it's not really murder, is it? It's murder, but it's not murder as in like targeting and killing somebody. He just went and randomly executed and savaged a group of people that he saw as being easy prey. That goes over and above murder and becomes something else entirely. It becomes literally a terrorist attack. It becomes a massacre. It's not a murder, it's a massacre. And you were found with the weapon and full of blood and everyone saw you. And the way you look, you're fucking hard to miss, aren't you? Everyone's picking you up out of a lineup, aren't they? So it's not murder. They've kept it in house, if you like, in order to manage it. And much of it is it has to be. I mean, fucking, he was making Ricin in his bedroom when he was 15, and they don't know fucking anything about this kid. 15-year-old lads are saying smuggling cans of lager, masturbating and playing video games. He's making Ricin. Make that stack up. He's a terrorist. I'm changing my tune. I've had a realisation as to where I hadn't been listening. I hadn't thought about it properly, and people were saying, "Why has this not been made an act of terror?" And in some regards, in essence to label it and to shift the blame, which I always detest. And when it comes up, I'm like, no, don't do that. You're shifting the blame. But then again, to be allowed then to suss out he's a terrorist, and then to be able, because of that, to be able to basically pick up his family without warrant, and pick up his relatives without warrant, and pick up his associates without warrant, and sweat them. That's what busting him as a terrorist lets the police do, lets the terror cops do. And they have deliberately gone out of their way not to do that. I know that we're keeping this is ours. We're going to use the criminal justice system here, and it's inappropriate. I do. I think it's inappropriate to charge someone with 3 murders and 10 attempted murders. So I think that's inappropriate. I think that's not in the spirit of the law. I think the law in this country would declare this guy a terrorist. I think the Ricin makes him a terrorist and make it so that he gets charged as held and charged as a terrorist, and that would completely throw all the guy's rights to anonymity as a 17-year-old and all that shit out of the window. If they'd have said terrorist, they'd have been able to name him, right? So I'm like, right, we've got a prime minister who's a lawyer, who's practicing bad law. He should know. People would pay him for his legal opinion. Is my legal opinion better than Keir Starmer's, and I'm a layman who's just understands rights and the right place to put things, right? Is my legal analysis of the situation better than Keir Starmer's is? And it's like, invariably, yes. We've got a bad lawyer running the country like a lawyer. That's just bad law. What he's done, the way they dealt with it, the way the CPS dealt with it was bad law. The CPS, if it was worth shit, right, with this case, would have said, we don't want it. What? Yeah, we don't want it. Wrong department. This guy should get handed to the anti-terror goons. And this guy should have all his fucking relatives' homes raided. He should have his family brought in. He should have the full fucking makeup done on his background. His battle process will have gone ahead with the police, but they should have done it under the terror police. Then you could hold him 28 days before you charge him. And then you'll fucking by then absolutely know what you're charging him with. I mean, it was a pretty open and shut case by way of charging, but it's like, nah, you want the factory that built this fucking animal snuffed out as well. If it had been declared a terrorist attack, they could have done that. Suddenly they've got all kinds of powers for fucking getting into computers, getting into phones, checking out bank details, checking out bank transfers. Yeah, they could do it all without a fucking warrant as well. They've got the guy. They should have done that. It'd have been the proper use of all the fucking crazy laws that the likes of Starmer, before he were in politics, his big mate and groomer, Tony Blair, put into place. We've got laws aplenty for how to deal with terrorists. This country's been dealing with terrorists as terrorists for, 100 years. We've seen it, and then suddenly we forget what it is. And suddenly we're using the criminal justice system and all the rights and protections of the fucking international law of the Court of Human Rights suddenly become the sword and shield of a guy who's hopefully going to, in his own imagination, probably start a revolution of some kind. Trigger a war. Again, terrorism. I see that guy's attack as an attempt to make the world stop and start at his command. Part of a larger scheme he'd have based on what he thinks the knock-on effects of his actions would be. Most of these fantasists seem to think that they'd be seen as a martyr or seen as a visionary or seen as... And then also like the idea that one day there'll be a Netflix fucking documentary series about him that they'll probably get to see. Of all these important people from all over the world wanting to talk to them in order to write about them. A kid who's made Ricin in his fucking bedroom is capable of all nature of abstract thought when he's an absolute fucking psychopath willing to go out and do fucking total murder for his own self-gratification and his own sense of self and power. his own ideas about what the world is and should be. It's like, oh my God, the way that this world would underestimate a kid of 14 and 15 to be getting his hands on chemicals and learning how to make fucking deadly poisons. Or is there something wrong with this story? I don't think you could have fucked that out. You couldn't have. The Labour Party, the government. You can't blame this on a previous government. You can't. Fair enough, every system's failed to catch this kid. But the way they've dealt with it after, you couldn't have fucked it up worse if you'd have tried. You couldn't have made a bigger mess of the whole thing. The whole world's been dancing to this crazy bastard's tune for months. Dancing to his tune. And the government have played along with his tune, pretty much. Spread confusion and chaos. And then look to punish. Labour pretty much provoked the response they got from the public over how they handled it in the first 24 hours. They provoked it, and then they punished, like the parent they are when you're a kid and you end up in their care. And poor kids, when the government gets into the business of parenting, they prove to be the worst parents in the world. They prove to be able to produce killers over and over again. Thing is about Axel Cabana is he was born in this country and there's a duty of care. He is and was a bag of shit to hold for this country. The government sign up for responsibility for public safety and education, and they don't like people. They don't like people protecting themselves, and they don't like people educating their own kids. They demand that you let them do it, and when they go about doing it, they're part of the mix of the creation of absolute fucking monsters. Part of the mix. They can't escape from just how fucking dangerous that person was and how the whole system has failed to deal with it. Probably because the same little bastard has got a wry mouth on him, and the same with his parents who were the first ones to scream, "You're only doing it because we're black people, aren't you?" Seriously. Black criminal types, psychos, are always the first ones to reach for the old race protection card. Always. It's like over the years, you've made it the only game in town for people who want to hide things. So it's like the race card plays a massive part in how this kid has never been properly dealt with. And also the ignorant kid gloves that fucking woke lefty types think, oh, poor little black kid. Oh, poor little black kid. And that be clouding the thinking at every fucking turn. As to in the sympathy, they think of them as like fucking imaginary pets. It's all part of it. Weird. All the things I tend to fucking cry about that's a fucking problem with our society. Myself, my own department is represented in this failure. Schools, social services, NHS, anti-terror cops. Police themselves, who've placed themselves with someone who's just flat out dangerous. It's like, well, what has he done? Has he done out? That's the police. Has he done out? Well, no, he's dangerous though. He's going to do something. Well, until he does something, that's the police. They're not set up for that. It's not telly. They're not set up for that. But it's like there are other agencies in this country that supposedly are set up for that. And they don't function. Because they don't listen either. Turns out, right, the right people to report Axel, the right people to report him to were MI5. One way or another, this kid is planning an act of mass murder and to sow the seeds of chaos. That's the telephone conversation that should have been had. And then you send a fucking spook round to break into his house the one day he's not in his bedroom and it's been fumigated or something. You're sending fake fumigators to go and fucking have a toot round in his fucking bedroom, and what do you find? Deadly poison that, if can be distributed, can be super deadly. And the same person capable of producing the stuff has likely put some thought into how to get it into people as well, a delivery system as well. Thought about it. It's like inventing the nuclear weapon but not inventing the rocket. You've just got one. You set it off locally, you just kill your family with it, you know. But he's at that stage of weapons development. Chemical, biological weapon development. He's been taken by. We're led to believe. You get why I'm moving around this subject kind of in circles. As to it all, to me, keeps coming back to this. He made Ricin in his bedroom. And then it's a matter of, but is that true even? We have to take their word for it, because I'm sceptical of that. It's like, because if you want to throw a spanner in the works and get people like me thinking, hang on a minute, that's what you would say. It would be an outrageously effective lie to tell people to make the deal heavier. Make it harder to get your head around it. Make it so it's a mind fuck. Because it is a mind fuck. I can understand one thing, but I don't understand the other. It's a mind fuck. I can profile you, a guy like Axel, Ruder, Cabana, and get you pretty bang on. But the same guy being a genius that can make Ricin throws me sideways into, hang on, a genius, self-taught biochemist, yeah, a chemical engineer, age 15, 16, as well as all this other shit. And suddenly you've opened my eyes to something far more alarming as to where maybe, you know, even I am guilty from time to time of underestimating what people are capable of. So when someone does that with me, it sets me fucking alarm bells ringing and racing. Oh, this one's capable of something that even I can't think. It's like, what a wake-up call. It's like, government, right? Please, reassess your understandings of what people are capable of and do the 15-minute fucking lesson on how societal situations and hardships contribute towards the nurturing of these people over a very, very long period of time. His parents have been rescued from the Rwandan nightmare, whether they're good guys or bad guys, but they've seen things they never should have fucking seen, and then they've been rescued and they've come to Britain where everything's going to be great, and they've put them in a council estate in Cardiff and just left them to it with a few £100 a week. It's like, that ain't a good fucking start in life, as far as I'm concerned. Any foreigner who hasn't got big money to make this place just instantly bend over for him. Any foreigner comes to this country who hasn't got money is just going to end up with the same lot in life as the fucking low-class nobodies in Britain. You'll be sent to somewhere that's a shithole dumping ground, where you'll be dumped, and you'll get a council flat or a one-bedroom fucking apartment or something, and it'd be like, right, okay, now, here, do it. Go find a job. And it's like, what passes as work nowadays isn't often what people envisage as work when they come from another country. Not always. See, you're signing up to be a shit worker. Basically, you're signing up to be an agency worker. You've got big dreams of, I don't know, working for the BBC or something like that. And you come to this country and you end up car valeting. It's like, who signs up for that? You're just signing up for the shittest jobs. You're just signing up for the shittest accommodation. And it's like, if you haven't got a stake when you first arrive, if you're not turning up with, I don't know, 50 grand, 100 grand to start off money, it's like you're not going to be able to afford to be able to work for long. You fall into the poverty trap of fucking benefits, and it's like, shit, you're never getting out of that. Because the notion of free public education in this country is a fucking joke. You're going to find it hard to get your ass qualified having needing something to live on at the same time as wanting to learn something new. They're not choosing a fucking life at all. It's to be an immigrant to a country like Britain and throw yourself out at the mercy of the government as some, asylum seeker, because that's what it is. Most folk who come to this country and they do it legally, they make their own arrangements for what they're going to do when they get here. And that's fine. Make your own arrangements, but these folk who come in with fuck all. And people cry about how much they get, and it's like, but they've got fuck all. And I'm not saying, give them more. I'm saying, no, they shouldn't be here. They've been fooled. Somewhere along the line, they've been tricked into coming into this country. They've been tricked to come in here. I reckon it's the other European countries that trick them. Probably paint Britain as the land of... They paint Britain as the land of milk and honey, say, you can get benefits there. Us in Germany or France, we might get sick of you if you don't get a job and deport your ass, but we keep it quiet. Over there, you're not getting kicked out of there. Although there are better countries to be an illegal. It's like, go and be an illegal in Finland. You're practically treated like a fucking foreign dignitary. Finland would be the best country in the world to be a fucking asylum seeker. No one goes there. Why not? Because it's fucking freezing. So I always remember that. My aunt, she passed away a couple of years ago. She's one of them who winged it. She winged it her whole life, did some daft things. Not a bad person, but she winged it. Got away with murder more than once. She once had it as to where she went over to for a long stay in Trinidad. Her long-time boyfriend is the smallest bloke from Trinidad you've ever met in your life. He's like 5'6" and all his brothers are 7 foot tall, that sort of situation. And had a daughter with him. And she went over there to stay, and while she was over there, she found herself I don't even want to think about how that's come about, but she's found herself a fella when she's over there. Clary, he would call him, Clarence. And he's there living in Trinidad, where it's a matter of they're poor, but you talk to people from Trinidad and they're like, oh no, but it's a good place to be poor. Because you don't have to worry. There's something that's come to me, that I've learned over the years about the West Indies, right? No one gives a fuck about planning permission. Pretty much. If you own it, you can build on it. So I did once where I was on a bus with a guy in Birmingham who was fucking wrecked on something. I could smell it on him. Some drug I'd not yet become accustomed to. And I gets on this bus at fucking Bardsley Green. What a dump that is. What a fucking strange place that is for people coming up talking to you. I sits down on bus and this sort of Rasta sort of guy sits down next to me and he starts talking to me like he fucking knows me. I'm like, I crackpot, right? And this is like a 25-minute bus journey. And I didn't say more than like 5 words and I just listened to this guy's story. He just laid it on me. And he was wrecked though, you know, he was fucked up on something. And he was drinking from a bottle of whatever he were wrecked on, and it had like a bit of a fucking branch of a tree on it. And it was some fucked up concoction he were drinking. You know, like, it smells, what the fuck is that? A bit like medicine, and so he's getting fucked up on some drug that I don't know about. And he's talking to me and he's saying that he was in Britain. Basically, he was just hanging out here. He was checking it out. He was a nutter on benefits, but he was just checking the place out. He was just chilling here. And he was showing me all these photos that he was obviously making some money in this country one way or another, this guy. And he was saying, showing me these photos. This is the house that my relatives are building for me back in Trinidad. And he's got his phone. This is years ago. It's when these things were one of like this kind of phone with the screen on. There weren't that many of them about. And a very advanced thing. And I'm like, this guy's not full of shit. That's an expensive phone he's got in his hand there, like an original iPhone type thing. And he's showing me all these, maybe all building materials. Pictures of like a wooden floor going down and building materials. And this is me. My brothers are building me a house. And it came to me at the time. It's like, so you can just, if you can build it and like just pay for it to be plumbed in, or even do it yourself. That's it. You just own the land and build on it. Oh yeah. No one gives a fuck. There's no council for there to be a guy to come round to say you haven't got planning permission for this. That government has not become that sophisticated as to where they're just deciding to just piss on people's chips and tax them for doing what they want to do with their own property. It's like government is not that sophisticated in certain parts of the world as to where, you know, if you want to build it, it's like there's some fucking safety inspector might come round and say, take that thing down, it'll kill someone, but it'd be a matter of past that. No. If it's your land, you can do what you want on it. How about that amazing fucking thing that goes on in different parts of the world where they haven't got the wherewithal to build the fucking council office, to hire the fucking bureaucrat, to send the bureaucrat out to tax people who are already poor. We've got a behemoth of a fucking government in this country that's in. He's got his finger in every pie. Every fucking last one of them. And we think it's normal. And it is normal, but it doesn't have to be. I suggest drastic things. I'm sorry my camera's gone out of focus. I don't know what to say about that. And it's like, get the government out of the business of education and childcare. Get the government out of the business of education and childcare. Because I tell you what, there's an illusion that these government entities communicate with each other effectively. They don't. Nah. Kids getting a mixed experience of all things. Not safe. They're not good at it. Too many people have got too much of an eye for getting radical ideas into the minds of kids as young as they can possibly get them into. Axel Cabana in his schooling time would have been likely taught 1,000 times that the world is coming to an end anyway because of CO2. Because if that generation will have been solidly brainwashed from the age of about 5, he'll also have been one of these kids who's been had rainbow flags around him every day of his fucking life. The kid's 17, 18. He kind of might get and the way that there's also a counterculture to that he can just burst in on like he's just walking in halfway through a movie. He'd be getting taught a different set of values. One side have got this set of values, one side have got this set of values. Finding the extremes, being an extremist, a black and white thinker himself, and then finding himself a new way, cutting right through both. I can see a straight line to how you create a kid who can make Ricin in his bedroom when he's 15. And then I get to thinking what else he's capable of, and to some degree, I already know.